Hello, good evening, everyone. Happy New Year, 2025. Sorry for the delay today. It happened because we had some urgent things to deal with during office hours. So, welcome to today's live stream. Hello, Happy New Year, everyone. Sorry for the delay today. Had something urgent during office hours. So, welcome to today's live stream. Thank you for joining us. As we go through, more people will join in. So, today I'll go through some of the things we'll discuss today. So, upcoming spousal open work permit changes for tier 4 and 5 people, and can visitor submit a work permit from inside Canada as per the new rules, the express entry draws that happened this week, number of people who are in the pool, and then we'll also discuss some success stories. One, reconsideration of a refused application, and then how we used to maintain status to help a client get their PNP approval, and now they have a PR application in process as well. So, and then obviously the questions that you guys will post during this live stream, I will see it on the right hand side. So please leave your questions while you are watching this if you have regarding anything immigration related. By the end of this live stream, I will go through all the questions. So let's start the upcoming spousal open work permit changes. So what is the biggest change that is going to happen? Well, it turns out the spouses of those who are working in tier 4 and 5 in Canada, currently at this time, they are eligible, but soon, very likely by the end of January or February, the public policy is set to expire. So once that policy expires, people will no longer be eligible to apply for the work permits of their spouses and dependent children, actually. So right now, if you have a work permit, and whether you're working full-time or part-time, that does not matter. What matters is that you have a job, you have a work permit or authorization to work in Canada, and then you can apply for spousal open work permit. So I recommend applying as soon as possible because you can always add more documents and context later on to these applications. Another common thing that is making rounds on social media is, can visitors submit a work permit application in Canada? The answer is yes. All you have to do is make sure you fill out IMM 1295 and answer there that you are in Canada and as a visitor. And then that way, when you submit the application will get processed outside Canada. So yes, you can submit the visitor to work permit application, but only difference is it will be processed outside of Canada, and you will need to maintain your visitor status by submitting an extension application like a visitor record. You have to maintain your legal status in Canada, and your application will get processed outside Canada, and that is completely legal. People have done this for a very, very long time. Okay. So this week, there was express entry draws, few of them, couple of them actually. So we'll go through them here. So the first one is on January 7th. You can see here, 4 471 people were invited. The CRS score was very, very high, 793. So basically, if you did not have a PNP, you just forget about this draw. This was primarily for people who had PNP approved. We had about 10 clients who got the invitation. So this is good news for them. But in general, this draw was not very helpful to most people. On January 8th, there was 1,350 invitations. That is quite a bit actually, uh, with people who had score of over 542, but less than 793. So that tells us there were those are very highly qualified people with a lot of experience outside, master's degree, high language proficiency results, and in some cases, maybe even French and family ties. Like, that's it's a very high score. And if we had 1,350 people, ooh, this year is going to be tough for express entry people. And the tie breaking was December 7th, 2024. So that means if you submitted your profile after December 7th at this time and you had a score of this, you did not get invitation. So let's talk about the number of candidates who are in the pool and their relative express entry scores. So 601 to 1200, there are 171. And this is the most surprising one. It is 20. So if you combine this, about 23,500 people over 500 score. So you can see express entry is going to be very, very competitive this year. Not a piece of cake. Definitely no 75 draw, as it was the case in 2021. So guys, try to get as many points as you can. Make sure you're not missing out on anything, because this is going to be a very competitive year for express entry especially. Whether or not there will be category based draws, it remains to be seen. Definitely there is going to be French category and healthcare. Very likely they are not going to do any transport category draws. Uh, but we'll have to wait and see. And there is some news that they're going to make some changes to the eligible knock codes too. So a year of change, 2025. Be prepared. So ECOPRs are being issued by the IRCC for portals that they sent out in 2024. Here is a client, my our client at Verge Immigration. So they received the portal request on September 25th, 2024. So that is October, November, December, and then January. Almost after 5 months, they sent the ECOPR. You can see here is January 8th, 2025. Eligibility and everything is done back in the day too. So finally, the ECOPRs are being issued, which is good news, because the clients do get worried that what is going on with their applications, why they're not being issued the ECOPRs. We've seen since January 1 that they have started issuing them. So if you are in the queue, such as this person here, you should be hearing from IRCC very soon. Oh yeah, these ones are our favorite. The refused applications and turning them into approvals. Okay, you can see here on January 7, 2025, which is about 2 days ago, the application was approved for this client. So let's go through the story. So the applicant applied on May 7, 2024. You can see here, and on August 14th, that's about 3 months later, he was refused the application. You can see the refusal letter here. After that, we had a consultation. I looked at the refusal. I thought it was a little bit unreasonable, and we could make a difference by submitting a reconsideration request, which we did about in September. And in November, they asked us something. Then on December 12th, they asked us something. We gave it to them. And you can see here a couple of days ago on the portal, it shows that the application was approved. Great news for the client, and this is going to be a 3-year work permit for them. And this is another one, because this one involves one very contentious issue where people say that people should not submit so-called dummy work permit applications because it's either illegal or unethical. In this case, we did, and the applicant got a approval letter because while that application was being processed, there was change in the client circumstances, and we made the IRCC aware of it, submitted a letter of explanation. So from September 4th until January 4th, that's about 4 months. Now the client has a 2-year work permit. This is, they were insisting that we do the visitor record, but no, we chose to do the work permit, and there's a 2-year approval for them. So I wanted to discuss a court case because it's very relevant, because a lot of people in Manitoba and in other provinces, they go through this. So this is a court case where somebody was refused a work permit for being a part-time student. How did that person become a part-time student? Because look at this, it's highlighted here. Applicant studied full-time. They decided to drop 2 courses near the end of their semester at Ryerson University. This happened during COVID. Okay. The first application was refused in December 2020. In January, she submitted a new application, okay, with the assistance of an immigration consultant. In the letter to the officer, the applicant explained the circumstances during that semester when she went a part-time student, okay, and also included a letter from Ryerson International Student Support Advisor. So look at this. On March 12, 2021, the applicant requested a reconsideration because she was refused the application again. And the issue was that she studied as a part-time student in 1 semester because of the illness of her family. And she failed the midterm, so she was going to fail the final exam as well, and that would have negatively impacted her GPA and standing at the university. So she decides to drop the courses, which made her a part-time student, and that led to IRCC refusing her work permit twice. So this is very relevant to this this application, that reconsideration application I just discussed earlier, because this guy had a similar situation. He got COVID and he decided to drop some courses to avoid failing them. And then IRCC, as a result of that, ended up refusing his work permit because they adjudged him to be, quote unquote, a part-time student. So you can see similar circumstances have happened before, right? And they have gone to the court. So the IRCC rejected grounds that our studies were not continuous. Like you, as per the post-graduation work permit program delivery instruction manual, you must have continuous full-time studies. Like every semester should be full-time, okay? And in her case, she ended up dropping a couple of courses because of illness of a family member that made her a part-time student. So this applicant, she had to go to the court. She won her case, and her application was sent to be redetermined by a different officer. And we have used that case and our understanding of that case to help a lot of our clients, especially this client here for whom the reconsideration was approved. So maintain status success story, this one where we submitted a application in September 4th, and then we added more explanations because the client's circumstances changed in the parallel. So it's always case by case basis. In some cases, we apply for a visitor record or a study permit. But in this case, I used my judgment that we needed to submit a work permit application, which we did, and it ended up getting approved for 2 years. So that's great news. And this is the case law I wanted to discuss. So I'm going to answer some of the questions that we have received this week, either through the form or some comments on social media or through email. So Manitoba PNP, employer change after submitting full application. Can you change the employer? So the answer to that question is it depends how are you issued the LAA. Okay, if it's career employment pathway, then you need to make sure your previous NOC aligns with the new NOC. If it is a skilled worker in Manitoba LAA, then you can have any job basically. If you were invited in occupation specific uh, invitation, then you have to make sure the previous occupation is the same as your new occupation. Then yes, the short answer is yes, you can change your employer, but the long of it is it completely depends on your circumstances and the invitation under which you were invited to apply for MPNP. I got laid off after submitting my PR application, Canadian experience class. Does it make a difference? Well, Canadian experience class, it does not make a difference, in my opinion. And the offer of employment is, let's say uh, un- unless you have claimed 50 points for arranged employment, that could potentially be an issue. But other than that, no, because we had one applicant who had to leave Canada because her employer terminated her employment, intra-company transfers, and we had claimed 50 points there. We just raised the issue with IRCC that these 50 points are for future. You see, it's for after the PR is approved. They're not. So IRCC approved the application. So the answer is it does not make a difference, but still get advice on how this impacts you personally, because every case is different. I'm working in Tier 1 in Nova Scotia, studies in BC. Can I apply for Nova Scotia PNP experience category? So, Nova Scotia PNP Express Entry, which is this experience category, it requires you to either have a non PGWP work permit, especially if you studied outside Nova Scotia. So, let's say if this person studied in Nova Scotia, had a PGWP and had a job in tier 1 category, perfect, no problem. They could apply for this stream. But if they studied outside Nova Scotia, then they're not eligible. This is one of the exemption. Like if you studied outside Nova Scotia, has a PGWP, and you're currently working in Nova Scotia, you're not eligible for the express entry stream. However, you may still be eligible for the skilled worker in Nova Scotia and AIP programs that there are. Got my work permit restoration refused. I'm out of the 90-day window. Can I apply for restoration again? The answer is no. You can. So what could happen is you can submit multiple restoration applications within the first 90-day window. There's no second 90-day window. Okay, this is very critical. So you can, yeah. So can I apply for restoration again? No, but if your circumstances warrant, you might consider applying for a TRP. I'm out of status and want to leave Canada. What should I do to avoid issues in future applications? Well, if you're out of status but within the restoration window, I recommend submitting a visitor record, uh, even if you want to leave. So it shows that you at least try to regain your status, and IRCC can still approve your application even when you're outside Canada. That way, if you want to come back, you can use your TRV, and that way there's no like, oh, we don't know where this guy is. Okay, so if you want to leave without applying for a visitor record or restoring your status as a visitor, just leave a note with CBSA, I guess. That's the best you can do, confirming that you're leaving Canada. Can I submit a character certificate from India as part of my express entry PR? The answer is no. From India, character certificates are not acceptable. There are some countries like Nigeria and Mauritius from where the police actually issues you a character certificate only, and you have to write a letter of explanation why it says character certificate. But from India, you must have a police clearance certificate. However, that clearance certificate can be obtained from your local police station in India. It does not have to be through the BLS, which most people go through, because it can take up to 3 months to come, and by that time you might miss your ITA. I do not have a job letter with duties for my PR application. What can I do to avoid a refusal? So for express entry PR application, you must have duties. If your employer is refusing to give you duties, you can have the duties written by your supervisor or your manager, and they can sign the letter and include their contact information, and you can hopefully provide additional documents like your job offer that probably has the duties. If not, then get a confirmation of employment from your employer and include a letter of explanation plus an affidavit from your supervisor or manager, which should be doable, because if you submit the application under express entry without the duties, you're almost guaranteed a refusal. So make sure you do not make this very, very common yet critical mistake in your express entry. I had to drop the courses before final exam to avoid failing it. Will it create complication for my work permit? As we discussed in the case law before, yes, because you have to be studying continuously to be eligible for a post graduation work permit. If there is even a single semester where you're a part time student, it will create complications. IRCC is taking no prisoners. Just make sure you give them context of what happened, why it happened. And as you saw in the case law that I discussed earlier, despite giving all the evidence of the sickness of the family member, IRCC still refused her, and she had to go to the court and wait for a couple of years before she could get her work permit again. So, yes, it is a problem. I recommend, this is just a personal recommendation, that if you are close to failing your course, just do it. Do not drop it, because GPA is not a factor in PGWP eligibility. However, if dropping that course is making you a part-time student, then drop it, because being a part-time student will lead to a refusal more likely than not. Some people do get lucky and they don't get the refusal, but I recommend not playing with the fire, because sooner or later there is a chance of getting burned. So my passport is expiring soon and I need to extend my study permit. What can I do? Well, hopefully your passport comes before the study permit expiry. If it does not, then you can include the proof of submission of the passport with your extension application, and hopefully IRCC accepts the letter of explanation and gives you 60 days to submit the passport. That way you can continue studying in Canada. If you still have questions about this one, you can email me directly and I can give you more nuanced, because in a public forum you can only share so much. So guys, those are all the questions I had to discuss today. Those were the updates. So weekly Q&A. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. You can email us or you can leave comments on social media. One moment, let me see if there are. So there is one question. So I'm going to discuss the question that are on Instagram right now. Can I done the IELTS exam? Yes, this is question by Rehan Fahim. He has joined us live on Instagram. So his question is, can I do the IELTS exam for work permit 8 or 9 months before your graduation? The answer to that question is yes, Fahim. You can do it, and because it's valid for 24 months. So what matters is that your IELTS exam is valid when you submit that application. Okay, so that is great. And then there is another question. If I have only 2 courses left on my last semester, then that's fine. You just take two courses. That's it. And then yeah. So is there any rule that a student have to get field job after study to get PR easily? Well, if you're in Manitoba, there is career employment pathway, then it can help. Definitely. So those are the questions that I got on Instagram while I was in this live. Those are answered. Thank you. So that will be it for today. We'll join you again next week with some more success stories, with a lot of your questions, and hopefully some positive changes by the IRCC. Lately, it has been very negative from IRCC. They're tightening the screw, so to speak. So things are getting tough for people, but hopefully it changes sooner than later. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you very much for joining us today.